How significant is it that we now have a date for the MPC? Obviously, many were very concerned that we missed the first one. Of course, we're going to miss the next in March. So now that we have a very clear signal from the central bank that we should have this meeting, how significant do you think this is?
I think it's positive news. Yeah, I mean, it was a bit, well, I wouldn't say it was worrying because of the way macro data was going and because the law says you can have 4 you need the minimum of 4 during the year. However, I think it shows the importance to which Nigeria takes economic policy. The fact that despite that embargo still being there, the National Assembly isn't screening nominations from the executive, that they made this an exception. And so everybody who is watching says Nigeria is serious about business, and it's a very positive news.
Right. But if we did have those meetings, do you think that we will have seen any change at all in terms of the stance of the MPC? Because we've seen the inflation numbers down to below 15% now. Do you get the sense that they may have made a move by now?
I think forward guidance from last year already showed when the MPC was meeting, they had already said, look, we are watching inflation, we are watching the growth numbers, and we're watching foreign exchange. And if we see inflation go down enough, then we might look at bringing rates down. And so far, it's moving in the right direction. I think they probably would have still been watching. But the good thing is you'd have gotten to see people's comments and at what levels they really want, the rates to start going lower. So that's part of the importance of them having this meeting.
Indeed. I mean, it's very good points. Those messages are very significant, and they give us a sense of where the MPC is likely to go in the future. But let's talk a bit about what is happening with the reserves, because we are inching closer to $50 billion, and there will always be that case that Nigeria may begin to consider even strengthening the currency. Do you think that we are there yet, or do you get a sense that this is not an option for the monetary authorities?
I think I like what the central bank is doing, which is let's build reserves.
Right. You think that is now a deliberate strategy? I
think so, because considering the turnover we've been seeing in the Naira window and the inflow that we've seen, if they wanted the Naira to appreciate, they could have. But I think it would be, getting carried away if we did that. Instead, build the reserves, because some of this money is portfolio money. So if portfolio decides to leave at some point, I want to have some of it on the side. And of course, shocks happen. Oil prices could drop. Different things could happen. And you want to have a war chest to ensure that we're able to ride that wave a lot better than we did in 2015. So I think it's the right move to keep on building reserves for now. Businesses are growing. People are starting local production a bit more because that devaluation has happened and making our export a bit more competitive. I'm not sure from their point of view, especially since the central bank is keen on boosting local production, that appreciating the currency also helps that agenda as well.
All right, and let's talk a bit about the prospect for that outflow of foreign investments, especially from the portfolio investors. Everyone points to the elections as being perhaps the biggest risk. Do you think that is inevitable, that we will see a significant amount of outflows, and as a result, we really do need the central bank to build that war chest to deal with that?
I think it's just being prudent. To be honest, I've spoken to 1 or 2 investors who are like, well, when you invest in Nigeria, you expect that around the elections you might have this. And that, the 1 or 2 that I've spoken to have been like, they are not really going to be as concerned, except, the political landscape actually becomes really heated. But if it's just the normal pre-election jitters, that they might not. Of course, you probably won't see new inflows coming in. But the amount that will go out, it might not be as significant depending on what the macros are doing at that point in time, where we are with the reserves, and how the political landscape is at that point in time. But it's prudent to prepare for it, just in case.
One thing that could actually draw a lot more foreign investor flows into the country is if Nigeria gets back on the JP Morgan Emerging Markets Bond Index. What's the prospect for that in your view? Some guests that I've spoken to suggest that maybe by the 3rd quarter that could happen. What's your view?
It's a bit difficult to tell. The DMO said they've made initial contact and they've had meetings, but how soon it happens, it's not
would you say Nigeria has ticked all the boxes that the JP Morgan would like to see there?
I think we're in the right direction. Again, nobody has given us details of what they are asking for, if they are asking for anything. But I think liquidity is always a major issue because they want their people to be able to replicate. And yes, we have liquidity now, so which is probably what led to the meeting in the first place, at whoever instance it was. So we're in the right direction. Whether they want to wait to see the election happen first, or whether they're happy now and they're just going to the administrative process, is something that I think is just a guess at this point in time.
Quick view on the outlook for yields this week. We've seen a bit of a decline after the inflation numbers. Do you get the sense that things could pick up again after that OMO auction?
I mean, we did see yield back up a little after the OMO auction, but this week we have two auctions. We have the T-bills and the bonds, which are less than normal. One, because they're retiring the one-year T-bills, and the bond auction was a bit of a surprise. I think what happens at those auctions, the results, how much the demand is and what rate they come out would be a significant factor. But I think we'll probably be sort of flattish with possibility that it drops off a little. I think that's
all right. Today, let's leave it there. Thanks for the insight.